Daniel Craig reflects on leaving the James Bond franchise. "I couldn't have done this while doing Bond." Daniel Craig, one of the most iconic actors to ever portray the legendary James Bond, has recently opened up about his decision to walk away from the beloved Seven franchise after a record-breaking 15 years. In a recent interview with the Sunday Times, Craig shared his personal insights, reflecting on his time as the world's most famous secret agent and revealing why he felt it was time to step away. His departure from Bond represents not only the end of a major chapter in his career, but also an evolution in his personal and professional life. Craig, who starred in 5 Bond films between 2006 and 2021, has long been associated with the suave yet complex spy. However, in this candid interview, the 56-year-old actor explained that despite the fame, fortune, and acclaim the Bond role brought him, he found it increasingly difficult to reconcile the emotional toll the job took on him. More importantly, he expressed how the limitations of the role left him feeling boxed in, making it impossible for him to explore other, more diverse roles in his career. "I couldn't have done this while doing Bond," Craig confessed, referring to his recent foray into projects that explore different aspects of his acting range. His comments spoke to the challenge of being typecast in such a massive, long-running franchise and the limitations that come with it. Craig reflected that had he tried to take on unconventional or experimental roles while portraying Bond, it would have looked reactionary, or like he was trying to prove something about his acting abilities. This feeling of being boxed in, as Bond was, a sentiment Craig shared in the interview, and it speaks to the complexities of balancing the expectations of playing such a high-profile character with the desire to challenge oneself as an actor. The burden of Bond, more than just action. Daniel Craig's journey as James Bond is one of the most remarkable in modern Hollywood. His first outing in Casino Royale, 2006, marked a dramatic departure from the suave, almost cartoonish portrayal of Bond seen in previous films. Craig's version of Bond was gritty, grounded, and more emotionally vulnerable than his predecessors. His interpretation of Bond, while initially met with some skepticism due to his departure from the traditional Bond image, ultimately reshaped the character for the modern era. However, it's clear from Craig's remarks that playing Bond came at a significant personal cost. In his interview with the Sunday Times, Craig opened up about the emotional and physical toll that playing Bond for more than a decade had on him. "I was so exhausted at the end of a Bond, it would take me 6 months to recover emotionally," he admitted. The grueling filming schedules, the constant public scrutiny, and the sheer intensity of the character took a serious toll on Craig's well-being. While many actors might revel in the fame and prestige of such an iconic role, Craig's experience with Bond was one of emotional burnout. The physical demands of portraying a character who was constantly involved in high-stakes action sequences, combined with the emotional depth required to portray a tortured soul like Bond, left Craig feeling drained and detached from his personal life. "The exhaustion wasn't just physical," Craig explained. "It was emotional. The role was so intense that I found myself feeling completely drained at the end of each film." This level of exhaustion ultimately contributed to Craig's decision to step away from the franchise and pursue projects that allowed him to regain his emotional health and explore different facets of his acting abilities. From star to typecast, the dilemma of fame. In his early years as an actor, Craig was more focused on honing his craft and building a varied career rather than chasing fame. "Early on with Bond, I thought I had to do other work, but I didn't," he explained. At the time, Craig believed that by taking on a variety of roles outside of Bond, he could avoid being typecast and prove his versatility as an actor. However, as he became more famous for his portrayal of Bond, the reality of being a global movie star set in. Most actors are out of work for large chunks, so you take your job offers, but they left me empty. Then, bottom line, I got paid," Craig remarked, acknowledging that while many actors spend long periods without work, he had the opposite problem, an abundance of offers, but none of which truly excited him. Despite the allure of big-name roles and lucrative deals, Craig found that these opportunities often lacked the artistic fulfillment he had hoped for. His comments reflect the inherent tension between commercial success and the pursuit of artistic integrity, a common dilemma faced by actors thrust into the spotlight by a single defining role. This typecasting was both a blessing and a curse for Craig. While it propelled him to international stardom, it also meant that his career became increasingly defined by the expectations of playing James Bond. The public's fascination with the actor and his association with the Bond franchise made it difficult for him to escape the role, even though he longed for a wider range of acting experiences. Emotional toil and the need for change. While Craig's time as Bond brought him unparalleled fame, it also contributed to a sense of emotional depletion. The role of James Bond required him to remain detached and focused on his mission, with little room for vulnerability or personal growth. This lack of emotional exploration within the confines of the character ultimately led Craig to a tipping point. "I always had the attitude that life must come first, and when work came first for a while, it strung me out," Craig explained. The relentless demands of being a leading man in one of the world's most successful franchises made it difficult for him to balance his personal life. As a result, he found himself unable to engage with the aspects of life that were most important to him: family, relationships, and self-care. This emotional disconnect was exacerbated by the intense public scrutiny and the pressures of living up to the expectations of both fans and critics alike. "I realized that it wasn't just about the roles I took. It was about how I was living my life," Craig admitted. It was this realization that ultimately led him to decide that leaving the Bond franchise was not just a career move, but a necessary step for his mental and emotional well-being. The desire for new challenges, seeking diversity in roles. After his departure from Bond, Craig sought to diversify his career and take on roles that offered a greater emotional range and allowed him to explore different aspects of his acting abilities. He moved away from the action-packed, physically demanding roles of Bond to embrace projects that focused on character-driven stories. A prime example of this shift was his role in Knives Out, 2019, where he portrayed Benoit Blanc, a Southern detective who was both humorous and astute. Craig relished the opportunity to take on a character that was quirky, eccentric, and far removed from the stoic, serious persona of Bond. "The role of Benoit Blanc was a revelation for me," Craig shared. "It allowed me to tap into a completely different side of myself and explore a character who wasn't burdened by the weight of the world." This shift from action-oriented roles to more character-driven performances marked a significant change in Craig's career and was a direct result of his decision to leave Bond behind. For the first time in years, Craig felt liberated to pursue the types of roles that truly excited him. Craig's decision to embrace diversity in his career was not limited to his role in Knives Out. He also sought out projects that allowed him to step outside his comfort zone, such as his role in Logan Lucky, 2017, and his voice work in The Adventures of Tintin, 2012. These projects allowed Craig to collaborate with different filmmakers and explore a wide variety of characters, giving him the artistic freedom he had longed for during his Bond years. No control over the next Bond, a legacy of change. While Daniel Craig has unequivocally moved on from the Bond franchise, he expressed that he had no interest in being involved in the selection of the next 7. "I have no say in who could be the next Bond," he stated, adding that he wished those picking the new Bond good luck. This acknowledgement reflects his desire to let go of the franchise completely and avoid being tied to the ongoing discussions about who would take over the iconic role. Craig has made it clear that his involvement with Bond is over and it's time for a new actor to carry the torch. For Craig, the end of his Bond journey doesn't mean the end of his legacy. His portrayal of the character will forever be a defining part of his career, and his contribution to the franchise has left an indelible mark on the history of Bond films. The emotional depth and complexity he brought to the character, along with his ability to humanize a figure often portrayed as cold and detached, changed the way audiences viewed Bond. Looking ahead, embracing new opportunities. As Daniel Craig embarks on this new chapter of his career, he has made it clear that he is more focused than ever on pursuing projects that resonate with him personally and creatively. For the actor, the future lies in roles that challenge him to explore different aspects of human experience and emotion, rather than simply fulfilling the expectations of commercial blockbusters. With his post-Bond career well underway, Daniel Craig is proving that he is not just a star, but a versatile actor capable of handling a diverse range of roles. His commitment to finding fulfillment in his craft, rather than succumbing to the pressures of fame and franchise expectations, marks the beginning of an exciting new phase in his career. As Craig continues to take on new challenges and embrace different opportunities, his legacy as James Bond will remain. But it will no longer define him. Instead, Craig is forging a path that is all his own, a path that values creativity, personal growth, and the freedom to explore the many facets of his craft.